Session. I'm James C. Hanks. Right. Be seated, please. Please.
We had one issue. One of the jurors has reported, Mr. McGowan has reported that one of his, once you have a seat, that one of his neighbors started trying to talk to him about the case, and he said, no, I can't talk about it, and that was the end of it. But does anybody want to hear it from him personally?
No, sir.
Yes, sir, we ought to make an inquiry.
Okay. I mean, you know, what I would say, and I'm glad to do that if you want, but, you know, I've kind of monitored what's in the media. There's really nothing out there that is not being heard here in the courtroom, so it's not a situation where you have some information that's not available to the jury that they might be reading in the media. But anyway, we'll hear from him. Let's have Mr. McGowan in, please. Why don't you go sit in the front of the courtroom, please, ma'am. Mr. McGowan, the bailiff reported to me you had some incident with your neighbor that tried to say something to you.
Just a couple of coworkers.
Coworkers?
Yeah, one asking, you're not on the murder trial, are you? And I just replied that I was not at liberty to discuss the case.
Okay.
Same situation with another coworker, but how was jury duty going? Fine, but not allowed to discuss the case. And
okay.
Just someone inquiring.
Okay. So they didn't give you any information, no, or you didn't provide them with any information? No. Right. Any inquiry, Ms. Kaplan?
No, sir.
Any inquiry, Ms. Bell? You did exactly right. Thank you for letting us know, and you can step back to the jury. I see I've received a defendant witness list and evidence list, or I guess I got a witness list. I don't see a witness evidence list. I'm sorry, do we have an evidence list?
The evidence is the 4 exhibits that are in, Judge.
That's it, okay.
We'll be using it. Anything that we might else use will be already from the state.
Great. Any other issues from either side?
No, sir.
No, sir.
We got digital back working today?
I think so, I do. I'm sure we do.
All right, we ready for a jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's have a jury, please.
Jury in the courtroom.
Everybody be seated. Good morning, folks. Thank you for being back here. Ms. Kappelman, you may call your next witness.
Martha Moore.
All right, come forward, please, ma'am. If you would face the clerk and be sworn, please, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, have a seat. Slide up the microphone, please, ma'am. May I proceed?
Ma'am, please say your name and spell your name.
It's Martha Moore, M-A-R-T-H-A, last name Moore, M-O-O-R-E.
You can pull the mic closer to you if you need to.
Hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
It'll bend down, just bend it down, see? There you go.
All right, Ms. Moore, do you know the defendant in this case, Adam Frasch?
I do.
How do you know Mr. Frasch?
It's my daughter's father.
And do you see your daughter's father here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you please point him out and describe what he's wearing?
He's wearing a blue A light blue jacket, white shirt, yellow tie.
All right, let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. Are you familiar with Mr. Frasch's height and weight?
I know, well, I'm not quite sure. I know he's tall.
Okay. Do you know how tall?
6'4"?
Okay. And do you know his weight?
I don't.
How old is the child that you have with Mr. Frasch?
She's 6.
Do you know the defendant's, or did you know the defendant's wife, Samra Frasch?
Not personally.
Had you ever spoken to her?
I have.
Were you familiar with the day, are you familiar with the day that her body was discovered at the Frasch residence?
When you say familiar, what do you mean?
You're familiar with that incident, that episode?
I know that
occurred?
Yeah.
Okay, and how did you first learn of Mrs. Frasch's death?
Kendall called and
Kendall
let me know.
Lindsay?
That's correct.
Okay, how did you know him?
Through Adam. Well, no, that's not true. I went to buy a car. I met Kendall buying my second car.
All right.
And he was my sales guy.
Okay, and did you also know him as a friend of Mr. Frasch?
Later on from there.
Did you receive a call from the defendant on the morning that Mrs. Frasch's body was discovered?
I did.
About what time did you receive that phone call?
I'm not sure the exact time, but I want to say around 8:30. Not sure that it was morning.
Okay. And where were you when you got that phone call?
I was on my en route going home.
Where's home? Where's home?
West Palm.
All right. And how far along the route were you when you got that phone call?
I want to say I was almost 3 hours in, 3 or 4.
So you
Not
left
sure.
pretty early
Little
that-
Clearwater.
So you left pretty early that morning?
That's correct.
And was that date significant to you, February 22nd?
It was.
How so?
It was my birthday.
And were you planning some sort of trip to West Palm for your
Yeah.
birthday?
To celebrate my birthday with family and friends.
What was the nature of the relationship between you and Mr. Frasch
We was
around the time you got the phone call?
we were co-parents.
Okay. So nothing romantic
No,
anymore?
no.
Was there any animosity at the time between you and Mr. Frasch?
No.
You got emotional yesterday when you came in to testify. Why was that?
I was overwhelmed.
Is that because Mr. Frasch is your child's father?
Yes.
Was there any animosity between you and Mrs. Frasch?
No.
Where was she from, if you know?
Where was she from?
If you know.
Guess Madagascar.
And you talked to her before?
Early on, when my daughter was around 2 weeks.
That's when you had conversations with her?
That's correct.
I asked because you did a pretty good impression of her in your law enforcement interview. Did she have an accent?
She did.
Okay. And do you know what type of accent that was?
She's African.
All right. And did you ever have any difficulty understanding her whenever you had conversations with her?
Not really.
But is it fair to say she had a pretty pronounced accent?
That's correct.
Do you know whether Mrs. Frasch played golf?
I don't.
Had you ever been to their home on Inverness Drive in Golden Eagle?
Yes.
When was that?
I can't remember the exact date. But I know Adam, at that time, he wasn't with her.
All right. And how many times had you been to that residence?
I want to say probably 1 or 2 times.
Do you know approximately how long before Mrs. Frasch's death was the last time you had been at that residence?
It was way before all this had happened. It was early on when him and I were dating.
Okay. So years before.
Right.
Do you know who Erica Tidwell is?
I do.
Who is Erica Tidwell?
It was a friend of Adam's.
Okay. And when you say friend, girlfriend?
A friend.
Like a romantic interest?
I don't know if they were, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know they were dating, or it was his friend.
Okay. And what about about Shakita Carter? Do you know who that is?
Well, I don't know her personally.
Do you know who that is, though?
I did hear stories of, I do, I heard of her.
Okay, is that somebody that the defendant was seeing as well?
Objection, Judge, it was hearsay.
Need a foundation.
Did the defendant ever mention to you a woman by the name of Shakita?
Yes,
All right, and is that someone that he was dating at some point?
it was one of his friends.
Okay, when you say friends, does friends include having sex, or do you know?
I have no idea. Yeah,
Did Mr. Frasch mention to you taking Shakita Carter to the Super Bowl?
I don't remember.
Do you remember if Mr. Frasch told you anything about Shakita Carter selling a sex video to his wife?
I did hear mention of a video,
What did
a
Mr. Frasch?
confrontation in reference to a video. I did hear of a confrontation in reference to a video.
Confrontation in reference to a video. And was that from Mr. Frasch? That you heard that?
Yes,
Okay, and what about the confrontation did you hear?
just, I guess she had a, I'm gonna just say it the way that I think that Shakita had a video of them and she wanted to present it to his wife.
Okay, a video of them. Who's them?
I assume Adam and her.
Okay. And when was that?
I'm not quite sure of the dates.
And did you hear something about Mrs. Frasch trying to buy this video from Shakita?
Or Shakita was trying to get money from her.
To get
Either
it?
or.
Okay. And all the information you learned about this was from Mr. Frasch, correct?
Or other people talking about it. I mean, I had
Okay. But did you specifically hear it from him as well?
just some type of confrontation over a tape.
Okay. About how often did you talk to Mr. Frasch around this time frame?
Not as much, but we did keep in touch due to my daughter.
Okay. How often would you say? Would you talk to him once a week? Once a
Probably
month?
not. Probably whenever he calls.
Okay. Can you give
Or
us an idea?
if I need something, I call. Let's say every other week or every month. We were co-parents.
Okay. And did he take your child by himself places?
No. She was a little baby.
Well, she's 6 now, so she would have been 4 at the time of Mrs. Frasch's death, right?
No, that's not correct. I think 3. It's
3?
been 3 years now,
Okay.
right? Probably going on 3.
Okay.
I'm not,
When you testified about a call where you talked to Mr. Frasch on the day that Mrs. Frasch's body was discovered, when was the last time you had talked to him before that Saturday call?
probably, it was during that week.
Right? Did you talk to him on the Thursday before Mrs. Frasch was killed?
It could have been.
Right. And on that Thursday, what was Mr. Frasch's demeanor on the phone? How was he feeling that day? if you know?
I think I called him because I needed my car. My car was acting up.
Okay, but my question is, how was he acting? How did he seem?
So, I guess like Adam. I mean, he was talking.
Did he seem overwhelmed?
I don't think that was that day. What? Probably.
What do you mean probably?
I'm not sure. It's been so long ago.
Okay, did you have an opportunity to review the interview that
I
you
did.
gave with law enforcement back around the time this occurred?
I did review some of it.
Okay, and did you review a portion where you talk about a call between you and Mr. Frasch that occurred the Thursday before her body was discovered on Saturday?
Okay.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall telling law enforcement on that interview that Mr. Frasch was overwhelmed on the phone about everything that was going on, and that he expressed some suicidal thoughts to you?
I don't quite think it was suicidal thoughts. I think that day he was overwhelmed, and I think I called his office because he was overwhelmed, and I said, if you guys notice any change in him, please, call someone or call Kendall, because Kendall can always talk him, because he was just overwhelmed by life.
And didn't he tell you on that phone conversation that, I'm trying to think of your exact words, that you wouldn't have to worry about him anymore? You may not have to worry about seeing him anymore, or something like that.
I'm not quite sure. I don't remember.
All right. Do you remember, based on whatever his exact words were, that you were concerned that he might harm himself?
I just was concerned about him because he seemed overwhelmed
And
that day.
specifically, you contacted his office,
That's
right?
correct.
To make sure they kept an eye on him because
That's
you were
correct.
concerned he might harm himself.
I just know he was overwhelmed to keep an eye out on him.
Okay. So he didn't seem happy and optimistic about life that day. Is that fair to say?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I mean, he was overwhelmed. Whatever.
Overwhelmed doesn't sound like happy and optimistic about.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just telling you the conversation we had over the phone. I felt something because I called the office. I can't explain exactly.
Okay, but you did explain exactly on the interview with law enforcement, didn't you?
I probably need to look at it again to know exactly what I said to be sure. I don't want to make any
Would whatever
false
you have
contact.
said at that time have been the truth?
That's correct. I
And
tell the truth.
Would your memory have been better at that time than it is as we sit here today about that conversation?
That's correct.
All right, what about the morning of February 22nd, that call when you were on your way to South Florida?
Mhm.
What did he say on that call?
He said he was on his way to my house,
All right, where was your house at that time?
Southwood.
And since you weren't there, I take it he did not go to your house, or did he?
That's correct.
He did not, okay. Did he say anything about having the children with him?
He had the kids.
Okay, and those are the two kids that he had with Ms. Frasch?
That's correct.
All right, and was it unusual for him to have those children on his own for days
No.
at a time?
No.
Okay, did you previously tell law enforcement in that interview that it was unusual for him to have the kids on his own?
Well, maybe at that time, because, they were going through the battle of divorce, and I guess at that time he was, in the court orders, he shouldn't have had the kids.
All right, and did he tell you something about why he had the kids and what he was doing with them?
Yes, he said that she wanted a break, and he was going to take them down to Miami, or I'm thinking more, or either Panama City, but I think Miami. And I said that I was going on because my birthday was that day, and he said she may join him later. She may be coming later.
Okay. Did he mention anything to you about needing to get her a gas cap?
He did.
And when you gave the interview back around the time that this occurred with law enforcement, you didn't mention Panama City, did you?
I don't think so.
Okay, you told them that he told you he was going to Miami with the kids.
That's correct.
No further questions?
Frasch?
Ms. Moore, back during this time frame, your daughter was 3 years old?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think you've told us that you would see Dr. Frasch fairly regularly with the kids?
Yes, sir.
All right, so,
Well,
go ahead.
when are you talking about? When
I'm
you
talking
say fairly
about
well?
maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months prior to the death of Mrs. Frasch.
Yes, when he had custody of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
And so when he had custody of the children, it wasn't unusual at all for him to come over and
That's
bring the
correct.
kids to visit with your daughter, is that right?
that's correct.
Okay, and the kids would play together.
That's correct.
So Dr. Frasch did have the children with him on a number of occasions without Mrs. Frasch being present.
That's correct.
Okay. You indicated that you'd had a couple of conversations with Mrs. Frasch, is that right?
When my daughter was first born, we really didn't have any run-ins the whole time we were here. When my daughter was first born, we did. I did have a conversation. When my daughter was born, I had a conversation with her.
Okay. Was that pleasant?
No,
Was she threatening?
she was upset.
You indicated that on the 22nd of February 2014, your residence here was in Southwood?
That's correct.
Okay. And you indicated that Dr. Frosch had called you and indicated he was going to be coming by?
That's correct.
All right. But then you were out of town.
That's correct.
Was it your assumption that he was heading to South Florida, or do you remember him saying, I'm heading to Miami?
He said he was either going to go to Miami or Panama City.
And were you familiar with travels often by Dr. Frosch either to South Florida or to Panama City?
He goes everywhere. He travels everywhere.
And was this even while you guys were going together?
What now?
When you were seeing him, when you'd had obviously a relationship with him, did you travel with him?
I did.
And did you ever go out of the country?
I did not.
Okay. When you would be traveling with Dr. Frosch, was it normal for him to have cash?
Yes, sir.
And when we're talking about cash, are we talking about $20, $50, $100, or significantly more than that?
More than that.
We're talking about thousands of dollars?
Yes, sir.
Was that unusual?
No, sir.
When you were traveling with Dr. Frosch, taking these trips around, did you see him with multiple car keys?
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about car keys, I mean, are we talking about one or two sets of keys?
He had lots of cars.
Lots of cars and lots
So
of keys?
he had less keys. Correct.
So we're talking about maybe 10 or 15 keys?
That's correct.
And it wouldn't be unusual for him to have those with him, is that right?
No.
In conjunction with being a father to your child, has he basically been a good person in dealing with you and your child?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, that's all I've got.
Redirect.
So he's basically a good person, is that your testimony?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Did he ever take those kids that he had with Mrs. Frasch out of town, to your knowledge, other than this
Not to my
occasion?
knowledge.
Never.
Not to my knowledge.
And the conversation that you had with the victim that long ago, when you first found out about her, she was upset. Why was she upset?
Due to the fact that she didn't know I had a kid.
With him, her husband.
That's correct.
And you didn't know about her either, did you?
Well, I had heard about her, but I didn't know they were together.
And she,
Wait, let me tell.
No.
Wait,
no.
no.
I asked
I
the
need to-
questions.
okay.
And you answer them.
And I'm going to answer it. What are you
Right.
saying?
So she was unhappy because she had found out about you, that you had a child by her husband.
But
That's
I
a
wasn't
yes?
with her
Ms.
husband.
Moore,
Judge.
the way it works, she asks questions, you
And I
answer the
answer.
questions, okay?
She didn't know about you until that phone call. That's why she was upset, right?
That's correct.
And you had a child by her husband, which was news to her, correct?
Yes, but at that time, they wasn't dating when I conceived that child.
I understand that, but
Okay.
he had a child with somebody that she didn't know about,
Okay,
right?
right.
And she was pregnant with his child at that time, correct?
I don't think so, no.
You don't think she was pregnant when y'all had that conversation?
Overruled.
I didn't know she was pregnant at that time, no.
Well, when you talked to law
I
enforcement,
know, I
you
had-
knew she
no.
was pregnant.
I didn't know that, no, I didn't say anything about her being pregnant. I said I had a 2-week-old child by Adam, And when I called his house, because my daughter was vomiting, throwing up, and I didn't have family in town, she answered the phone. And that's how we found out about each other. Meaning they were married and I had kids.
And at that time, she was pregnant with
I had
Tyra.
no idea.
No further questions.
Any juror have a question of this witness? Not, you may step down. We need to keep her further.
Yes, I'd like her to remain under the rule, Judge.
Remain
Go
outside.
about her
please.
business.
Call your next witness. You can step down.
State calls Dale Folsom. Looks like I need a short recess.
All right. Jerry, step out. If you made them a pot of coffee and Deputy. All right. Did they say it was awful?
Nobody commented too much.
All right. Y'all step out. So what's the situation, Mr. Kaufman?
Mr. Folsom's not here. Apparently he's en route and I've just asked how many minutes. So I'll advise you momentarily.
I beg your pardon? And
How
you-
many minutes it's gonna be that I'm requesting?
How long?
I don't know, I'm waiting to hear that.
You don't have someone else you can call?
Really,
If it's going to be more than 10 minutes, let's figure out somebody else to call.
all right,
All right?
yes, sir,
Let us know.
yes, sir. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll just have to do your, it's not here in minutes.
Okay, I'm moving. Okay, all right, I'll see you in a second.
Oh, here it is happening. It's 8, it's 9 o'clock. No, of course it's not. Look at this. I think we should try to do something.
session. You ready for the jury?
Yes, sir.
Have a jury, please. Jury in courtroom. Call your next witness, please, Ms. Captain.
Dale Folsom.
The witness, hold it. If you face the clerk and raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, have a seat. Slide at the microphone, please. Move on up to it. Pull it to you. It moves. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Captain.
Sir, what is your name?
Dale Edward Folsom,
Please spell your name and closer to the microphone.
D-A-L-E, Edward, E-W-A-R-D, F-O-L-S-O-M.
Mr. Folsom, do you know Adam Frasch?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know Mr. Frasch?
He was my cellmate for about six or 7 months or so in the county jail.
All right, do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Light blue blazer.
All right, let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. You mentioned he was your cellmate in jail. Have you ever been convicted of a felony or crime of dishonesty?
Yes, ma'am, about 40 times.
40 times?
Mm-hmm.
Did you and Mr. Frasch become friendly in jail?
Yes, ma'am. Most people do if you're stuck in a 2-man cell.
Did you show him the ropes in jail?
A little bit.
Did he ever put any money in your canteen?
No, ma'am, I have my own.
What is a canteen?
Ma'am?
What is a canteen?
It's where you order snacks and, sweets and cosmetics and stuff.
And you said it was about 5 or 6 months that y'all were in there?
Yes, ma'am.
How much time did you spend together during those days?
I mean, you're locked down about 14 or 15 hours out of the day, so
Was the defendant a talker?
sometimes.
Did he ever say anything to you about this case that we're here about today?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
And what did he tell you about the case?
That's what I already told you, about the thing on the back of her head.
Okay, well, let's tell the jury. Start over and tell us what he said about his case.
Just that,
Need you a little closer to the microphone.
just about how she started a fight that night and kicked him in the back when he's in the bed because of something she found on the laptop or that morning. And he defended himself pretty much, he thought, and they were fighting, and he hit her, and I guess she fell and hit her head, or he hit her in the head with a club, and he tried to, make it look like a murder, I guess, by somebody else, and threw her in a tub, and then took off to Panama City with the kids.
All right, so let's back up a little bit. He said that his wife kicked him in the back while he was sleeping in the bed?
Yeah, I started a fight with him because of something she
Because
saw
of
on the
something
computer.
she found. And
Right.
did he elaborate about what she found?
He didn't, no, ma'am.
Okay. And they got into a physical fight?
Yes, ma'am.
And he said, what happened? He hit her in the head?
For the club, golf club.
And what happened after he hit her in the head with the golf club?
She fell, and then he said he checked on her a little bit later and realized what had happened, and said he didn't mean to kill her. He was, upset when he told me, but he said he didn't mean to kill her. It just happened, and he got scared and ran. So threw her in the pool and then ran.
Why did he throw her in the pool, if you know?
I imagine he did it out of instinct, but probably, to cover up I guess when you do commit a crime like that, you want to try to cover your tracks, so.
Okay. But did he tell you that?
Ma'am? No,
Did he
didn't
tell
say
you
that
specifically
No, he didn't
why?
say that he tried to cover his tracks.
Just that he got scared and threw her in the pool.
Yeah.
Had y'all been reading the same book that was some kind of murder mystery book?
Yeah, that's what God was talking about. Their evidence they had, what they were using and stuff was Scarpetta books.
It's what?
The Scarpetta novels, they're medical examiner novels.
Okay. And in those novels was the effect of cold water on the ability to determine the time of death an issue?
I remember it said the time of death wasn't an exact science. There's no way to really accurately say when it happened.
and Mr. Frasch and you discussed that fact?
Just a little bit, yes, ma'am.
Did he say something about once a victim has been hit in the head, they might seem dead, but they're not really dead,
Yeah,
or something like that?
They could be like real comatose or something for a couple hours, and you couldn't really tell they were alive unless you could, hear their heartbeat or something. They said it would be real hard to tell.
Did he ever mention anything to you about having a boat or planning to do something with a boat?
Yeah, that and learning to fly a helicopter and escaping on a cigarette boat. He just figured he had a way out, but when he got over here, his boat wasn't fixed. It was still broke.
Tell me about that. What do you mean by that?
And he just said he went over to look to see if it's like a cigarette boat, one of those big long ones, offshore boats. He said-
Where?
In Panama City. He said it was in the shop. He said he probably could have got away on it, but there was no way because it was broke down.
And did he tell you anything about his wife's funeral or going to the funeral home?
It made him sad,
It made him sad?
Yeah,
All right. Did he talk about inspecting his wife's body at the funeral
yeah, he
home?
said he looked at her head wound and stuff and checked it out and saw, where it was and everything, put his hand on it. Said he asked him about pieces of the skull they left out or something.
He asked him what?
About some of the hole, because there's like a piece of the skull they might have left out during the autopsy, I guess.
And you mentioned that he said he hit her with a golf club. Did he mention something that he wanted you to do in reference to golf clubs?
Yeah, he said that he was going to try to get in touch with somebody, me or somebody, to try and maybe get help, but they didn't find him. I guess they knew that y'all didn't find him until later on, in the initial
Alright.
search, because there were so many of them.
So he wanted to get in touch with you or somebody to do what?
Just go steal them all.
Go get the golf clubs?
Yes, ma'am.
From where?
Out of the garage in Golden Eagle.
And did you go to his home in Golden Eagle?
No, ma'am.
Did he tell you a specific golf club that needed to be gotten?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that?
So, I remember what it's called. I don't remember. I'm not familiar with driver names. It's been a long time ago. It's a big club like a driver, a big fat one. He said he would tell me which one. He didn't tell me exactly that day, but he said he would let me know. There was a bunch of them there, though, apparently.
Did he tell you specifically what, if you were the one that was going to do it, he would want you to do with the golf clubs?
Just get rid of them.
What about sell them or give them to somebody?
Just to get rid of them. He didn't specify.
Okay. And you reported all of this to law enforcement? Is that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you do that?
It's not the right thing to do.
Did you get released on the case that you were in there on?
I'm out on bond on it.
You're out on bond on it? And when you were released on bond, were you released on a GPS monitor?
No, ma'am.
What about when you were released from when you were in there with him?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
You were on a GPS at that time.
That's how they took me off of it.
At the time that law enforcement recovered the golf clubs, you were on a GPS monitor, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that tracked your movements?
As far as I know, yes, ma'am.
And you never went to the Frasch residence?
Never seen it before in my life, except in pictures.
You know exactly where it's located? Did he tell you
No,
that?
just Golden Eagle. It's a big, huge neighborhood. I've done a lot of work in there.
But as far as you know, you've never been there?
Oh, ma'am.
And didn't do anything to cause a golf club to be
No.
located there?
No, ma'am.
No further questions?
Carl?
It's my understanding you've got, was it 4 or 40 prior felony convictions?
40.
40?
Yes, sir.
40 times.
Bad checks, like.
I'm sorry?
About 35 something, 38 bad checks all at one time. They
I
gave me a
see.
separate charge for everyone.
And you're currently, are you out of jail now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Do you have any pending charges?
I have one.
And what is that pending charge?
Possession of methamphetamine. It was a small empty baggie they found in the car with some residue in it. A car I was a passenger in.
Some methamphetamine. Are you a regular user of methamphetamine?
No, sir.
Never touched that
I
stuff.
have. And several
sorry?
times. I've done almost every drug there is, sir. I've been a drug addict since I was 9 years old. So I've
Okay.
done them all, just about.
So you're a 40-time convicted felon and a drug addict since you were 9 years old. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Not practicing at the moment.
And when you were in jail back in, what was it, January or February of 2015, when you met Dr. Frasch? Is that right?
It was before that, I think. It was,
But you said 2015,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taylor? Is that what you meant to
Oh.
say?
I don't remember the year. I know we was cellmates from like August to February or something like that for a long, maybe it's October to February. We was cellmates for a long time.
Okay. And did there come a time in January of 2015 that you contacted law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
And the purpose, that's a yes?
I assume that's when it was. I don't remember. To be honest, I can't say for sure.
Okay. And basically what you were going to do is you told them this story that you've given us today. Is that right? That Dr. Frasch was just basically confessing to what occurred. Is that right?
Talking about it, yes, sir.
And so he told you that he hit his wife with a golf club.
During a fight, she was
I'm sorry?
during a fight. He told me several times how violent she was and how many
Alright.
times she had jumped on him.
And it was a driver.
Well, a big fat one. I'm assuming that's what they're called. I don't play golf, so I don't know the game. So it's
Alright.
one of the big fat ones.
And that golf club was in the garage.
Just the bunch of them were,
Bunch of them. Bunch of golf clubs in
and
the
the
garage.
one that happened.
And
I'm sorry, the what?
The one that he hit her with was also in there. He said there was a bunch of golf clubs and the one he used in there too.
okay. And he was going to Panama City.
With his kid, that's where he left that morning.
And what was he going to do in Panama City according to your version?
Try to get out of the country or something, or get away
Okay.
before they caught him, but they figured they might find out he did it.
And how was he going to do that?
He said his first thought was his boat, but when he got there, it was still in the shop. It was broke down.
When you told law enforcement this story, did you not tell them that Dr. Frasch was going to flee the country in a Donzi?
I don't know the brand name. He told me it was the Don's. I don't know if it is or not. He told me that's like a real high-dollar cigarette boat, but he said he had
Well, that
Don's.
first conversation with law enforcement, that was recorded, wasn't it?
I said, yes, sir, I'm assuming.
It was. Okay. And so do you recall saying specifically that Dr. Frasch was going to leave in a Donzi?
A Don's is a brand name.
That's
Cigarette
true.
boat's a generic name for all long, skinny boats.
I see. So you use the term Donzi.
Because that's what he told
Is
me
that
it
right?
was. That's what he told me it was.
Okay. And he told you, well, you told law enforcement that on the 22nd, when he went to Panama City, he also went to the marina to check on the boat. Did you tell me that?
He told me he did.
Okay, so according to your version of events here, Dr. Frasch told you on the 22nd of February 2014, he went to the marina
No, he didn't
to
necessarily-
check on his boat.
No, he didn't say he went. He said he checked on it. He might have called. He could have had somebody else call. I don't know. He just said he checked on his boat and it was broke down. He thought it would have been fixed already. He never said that he went there. He just said he checked on it.
And as a result of this story, law enforcement, who did you talk to when you were given this version of events?
I don't recall, sir. It was somebody from the sheriff's department.
Okay. Jason Newland, an investigator?
I think he came later. I don't remember if he came the first time or not. I don't recall. It was a long time ago.
Joel Weaver?
I don't remember, sir.
Yeah. You have memory problems?
No, I don't. I have extremely high IQ and a real good memory. I just don't remember that guy's name.
I see. And so your drug use since 9 and your multiple convictions haven't affected your memory in any way, is that right?
I imagine they have, but I've never really noticed it.
Well, you've been in prison before, correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. Pleasant experience?
Not at all. Horrible.
Horrible. And you wanted to avoid having to go back to prison, isn't that true?
Then whatever happened, happened, you know?
I'm sorry?
I look at life as pretty much whatever happens, happens. You just gotta,
I see. So you're in jail and you're looking, what were you looking at when you were in jail? What were you in for when you met Dr. Frasch?
My ex-wife, who later went and dropped the charges, said that I pulled up on her and her boyfriend and threatened to beat her up for stealing stuff out of my warehouse.
Okay, so basically you had violated the term of your release, is that right?
I was on probation, and the day before I got off probation, I had 4 years probation. I did 3 years, 11 months, 28 days. The day before I got off, she called, pressed this charge on me, which got me violated. Actually, when they pressed the charge, I should have technically already been off. She did it just to get me violated.
So
she
your
later
wife
recanted.
wrongfully accused you of an event?
She came up and recanted it. Probably had the charges dropped a year later.
A year later. But at
That's
the
in jail a
time,
year.
we're talking about in January of 2015, you were looking at a violation, probation.
They
How
dropped
much
it.
time in prison were you looking at going back?
3 or 4 years. They had already offered me 36 months twice.
36 months. So you were looking at 36 more months in a horrible situation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Didn't want to do that, did you?
I've done 36 months in a cell by myself before, sir. So it's, you know, it's
The question
what it
was,
is.
did you want to do 36 more
Not really,
months?
no. But if I
Yes,
had
sir.
to, I would.
I'm sorry?
If I had to, I would, with my head up and try to stay positive.
But as a result of this, law enforcement went to Panama City and then came back to see you again, did they not?
They came several times after that.
All right. Were any of those other times recorded, those interviews?
Sure they were. I thought most of them were.
Okay. And when they came back to see you after having gone to Panama City, did they tell you there isn't any Donzi in Panama City that belongs to Dr. Frasch?
Just what he told me.
But they told you, did they not, that there was a fountain boat in Panama City?
Fountain's another brand name. Looks just like a Donzi.
And did you not then tell law enforcement, oh, Dr. Frasch talked to me again and said, I made a mistake when I told you that I had a Donzi. I really had a fountain. Is that what you told them?
Probably, I might have. I don't remember.
Okay. So what you're saying is Dr. Frasch, who's supposedly confessing to you about a Donzi, now says, gee, I don't want to leave the wrong impression with you, Mr. Folsom. It was really a fountain.
The boats are exactly the same except for the name. No difference. Price and
I
everything.
And when law enforcement told you they couldn't find any evidence that Dr. Frasch had gone to the marina on February 22nd, is that when you came up with this idea that he didn't tell me that he went to the marina, he might have called them?
No, it's just what he told me. He said he checked his boat was not ready.
As a result of this second conversation with law enforcement, did these officers go to bat for you with the judge and ask that you be released from jail?
I don't know if these officers here did or not. Somebody, my lawyer told me somebody helped me get out on bond. And plus my wife helped because she went and told him that I wasn't guilty of the charge she pressed on me, that she lied.
That was a year later, wasn't it?
That made a big deal out of it.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, she waited a year before she finally
Okay.
did that.
So, but the bottom line is you got out of jail on a stipulated motion for release. That means it was stipulated between the state attorney's office and your lawyer on the 11th day of February 2015. Is that right?
I don't remember the day, but yes, sir. I assume it was.
So-
I know it was in February.
Your reward for this story was you got out of jail. Isn't that true?
I don't feel like it was a reward. I just told what any citizen should have done.
Well, you got out of jail. All right. And now you got put back in jail? Is that, am I understanding that? This meth charge?
A year later, I got a DUI, and I blew negative on the breathalyzer test, and he found a clear plastic baggie, and he says there was some residue in it. They tested positive for meth. I'm taking that charge to trial because it was not mine.
But that wasn't your meth?
No, sir, it was not.
No, sir. And so somebody else has set you up or blaming
No,
you
there
for
was
something?
3 other people standing there. Could have been
Okay.
either. They wouldn't say nothing.
So this happens regularly with you, is that right?
No. it does
People
not. First
blame
time
you
that's
for
ever happened.
things
No,
that you
first-
didn't do.
No.
And
Never
when they
happened.
do that, you talk your way out of trouble again
I
and
told-
again and again. Isn't
You
that
just told us a
true?
lie, sir, because nobody's ever blamed me for something I didn't do except for that one time. I remember
As a
that one.
lifelong junkie, is that right?
No, not really. I've always functioned. I went to college. I graduated. I was a single father from 10th grade all the way till my son was 8. Raised him by myself. Went to college with a kid. Did pretty good for being a junkie. I had 2 college degrees. I did all right.
pretty nervous today. You got habits from using drugs all your life?
I just move a lot. I got restless leg syndrome.
I'm sorry?
I move a lot. I got restless leg syndrome.
I see. So you've got illnesses as well as everything else. Is that right?
Not illness, it's a condition.
It's a condition.
I feel fine.
Okay. How many of these, in this golf club that they're talking about, you never saw it, did you?
Never been to the house. How could I see it?
So you don't know how a golf club, if there ever was one, got in the house. Is that right?
The guy lives on a golf course. I'm assuming he has a golf club.
Well,
Most people do.
you don't know how it got into the house.
He probably, I mean, it's, I don't,
From the
didn't walk by
story that
himself in
you've
there.
told us from Dr. Frasch, you said all the clubs were in the garage.
He said he had a bunch of them in the garage. He didn't say
Okay.
all, he just said
Okay.
there's a bunch of them.
May I have a moment, Judge?
You mind?
Of your convictions, is it your testimony that basically all of them, or 38 of them, came from one case?
No, said a bunch of them did. Actually, I think I have a lot more than 40. I don't know, they just,
Yeah.
someone told me. I
Grand
had 40.
theft in there?
And grand theft by passing a worthless bank check.
What else do you think you've
All
been
kinds of
convicted
stuff. I was a pretty bad guy there for a while.
for a while?
Off and on. I'd do good for 3 or 4 years, mess up for a year, do good 3 or 4 years. That was my MO most of my life.
And now you're back in that valley where you're getting in trouble again, isn't that
I
right?
haven't been in trouble in a long time. And that charge there,
Well, you were in trouble, you were in jail in 2015.
my
You're
wife
not,
falsely accused me of something, they put me in jail.
you were in jail in 2016,
All right.
is that right? For violation, how many times have you come into court when you've been charged with these multiple felonies and told the judge, give me a break, I swear to you I'll never be back here again?
Objection relevant.
Never said that.
Overruled.
How many times?
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot?
No.
You've never told the judge that?
Probably. Most people have. I don't even recall ever being allowed to speak to the judge. If you're a prisoner, you don't get to say nothing.
You
just
do
stand
anything
quiet.
to stay out and keep yourself out of jail. Isn't that true?
Most people would.
You don't know any of these people on the jury, do you?
No, sir.
Mean anything to you to raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Of course it does. I have a degree in theology. I went to Bible college. I'm a
And
Christian.
that's what you do. You're a truthful guy, right?
Most of the time, I try to be.
When you're writing bad checks, stealing from people, and doing drugs. That's all I've got, Judge.
Redirect.
No, sir.
Hey, juror, I have a question of this witness. All right, you can step down. We need to keep him in further.
I would like to keep him under the rule, Judge.
Remain outside, please. Call your next witness.
Jason Newland.